Yeah, he's going to get some reps. A couple different spots this week, but he's most been staying at center, and Seth's obviously been doing a great job there. But yeah, he'll mix in a couple different positions this week.
And is the plan still Donnie at left tackle, and what do you plan on doing at left guard if so?
We're still going to work through it. I'm not going to kind of throw that out there yet. We'll see how the week works, but see how Zen comes in today, and we'll keep going through it.
Far left, Joe Nugent, WCMH.
How do you work through trying to find out what the new offensive line will be able to do best as you head to Penn State?
Well, I mean, we're not going to all of a sudden radically change what we do. We just have to move some things around if Zen can't go, and then continue to do what we've been doing.
Bill Landis, Kings of the North.
Ryan, what did you identify from watching the Nebraska tape in regards to your run game and the ineffectiveness there, and what are you trying to iron out this week?
Well, the biggest thing was obviously the third downs. When you go 1 for 10, you can't keep drives alive. You can't control the game, and that's how it goes. But I think it was a combination of things. I don't think we were always ID'd correctly, and Zen did get beat on a few of them there, but it wasn't just him. There were some other things that were mixed in there. But, in Chip, I think we ran it double, twice as much as we threw it in the game. And so we were looking to establish the run. But when you can't convert on the third downs, the third and shorts, then you can't get drives going. You can't wear down defense. So we've got to convert on third down.
You can correct me if I'm wrong. Like I said, it didn't seem like there were a lot of those kind of like perimeter throws you guys would couple with the run game earlier on in the season in the Nebraska game. Is that just a game plan specific thing to Nebraska, or do you feel like you need to get back to some more of those complementary passes?
Yeah. You try to game plan based on what you're getting that week, and obviously the game plan didn't work very well, so we got to obviously reconsider it.
Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, James Franklin kind of left it up in the air yesterday about where they'll go with quarterback. Two different guys, two different styles. How do you prepare for two different quarterbacks for a big game when you've got so much else kind of going on as well?
Yeah, we'll prepare for both guys being healthy and ready to go, and they both bring different things to the table, but both are very effective in what they do. So we'll go based on what we've seen and what's on the film. But yeah, we have to know who's in the game.
Given that they've played both, even when Aller is healthy, does that help a little bit because you knew you had to prepare for some change up there?
Yeah, I mean, regardless, we knew we were going to have to prepare for both quarterbacks. So, and both do things, they both do, they run, they throw, they both can do things very well. So they're both talented in what they do, just a little bit different in the way that, their skill set's set up. But like you said, we knew we were going to have to prepare for both anyhow.
Over to the far right, Adam King, WBNS.
So we can watch it and we can say the run game's not working, maybe go away from it. But as a coach, what's the conversation like on the headset when you're trying to establish a run game, you're trying to learn in a Nebraska game versus, hey, we've got to get away from this because it's just not working? What's that conversation like?
Well, the number one goal is to move the ball down the field, and so that has to get done. But you also are looking to control the game by running the football and making sure that you're establishing the run and controlling the run and winning the rushing yards. But when you look at it on the sideline, you got to identify what's going on in the game, and if it's an adjustment that needs to be made, or somebody just didn't execute it right, you're not just going to walk away from it. I mean, we were explosive when we shot the ball down the field, but that's not always going to happen. We have to make sure that we're establishing runs, we're staying effective, and then again converting on third down, because the more at bats you have during a drive, the better you're going to be. When you're not converting on third down, you're not keeping drives alive. To go 1 for 10, I mean, that's just unacceptable. So we're going to keep swinging at it, because we got to make sure that we're doing it the right way and making sure that we're winning the rushing yards, and especially in this game, we got to win the turnover battle, we got to win the rushing yards, got to win the X plays, and so you got to go back to the drawing board and figure out what happened in the game, why it didn't get done, and get it fixed.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
What went into the decision that Luke Montgomery ended up being the left guard when you moved out of the Jackson outside?
Yeah, just based on practice. We have the 1s and 2s, and Luke had been practicing at left guard, for the last couple of weeks, and Austin's, spending time at right guard. So where we were in the game, we felt like Luke had more practice reps under his belt at left guard.
And kind of to what I just asked you, obviously, yes, logically you control the game by running the ball. Maybe this is an oversimplification, but can you control the game by just throwing the ball as well? Is that
Like, listen, I mean, we all have to move the ball. So when we're throwing the ball and we're not running it, when we're running it and not throwing it, the bottom line is you got to convert on third down. So, we got to do a good job on both sides of the ball in terms of execution. We got to put the players in a better position to be successful, and we got to move the football. That's the bottom line. So we can look at run, pass, this and every. I mean, the bottom line is we got to convert on third down. We got to have a balance of running and throwing, and move the ball down the field and score touchdowns. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So. We can talk to we're blue in the face about, running and passing. You want to balance. You got to execute better. That's the bottom line.
Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, I know that you guys only had 44 non-kneel down plays. Obviously, third downs go into that. But when you see this action, you see Emeka only have three catches and I think 4 targets. How do you get him more involved even when your offense seems a little stagnant at times or third down's not
right? I mean, convert on third down and keep drives going so you get more plays, because we didn't have very many plays. So when you do the math on it and you only have that many plays, the numbers are going to look the way they do. So, we'll always try to figure out ways to get the ball to our best players.
Dan Holt, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, you had said last week you had been spending more time with the defense. Does that change around this week? Do you spend more time with the offense?
Yes.
And you had said with Zen that we'll see how he works through this week. Have you gotten a diagnosis on him? Is there a chance he could play this week?
We'll look at it again today and see where he's at. I think there is a chance, but we'll look at it today and get an update for you later in the week.
Tony Urban, Buckeye Hollow.
So if Zen can go, is he then your starter at left tackle?
If he could go, he would be, yeah.
And how much of that is trying to come up with the most seamless move rather than maybe the most painful, but perhaps the more, I don't know if it would be better now. Obviously, you're trying to put the best lineup out there.
Yeah, you got to put the best lineup out there and have enough, to not only just win this game, but, be able to play the rest of the season. So you got to think of a short-term plan, and then you got to come up with a long-term plan. So, we'll do everything we can to win this game, and that's where the focus is right now.
Don Taveri, WBNS.
What's the mood of your club coming in this week, Coach?
What a unbelievable opportunity right here. I mean, this is a chance to go to Indianapolis is on the line, and our guys are excited about playing in this game. I think the defense got a lot of confidence coming off of last week, the way that they played and creating TFLs and winning the game in the fourth quarter. I thought they were flying around, and so if we can get the offense playing the way it has in the past, combined with the way we played on defense this past week, then that's what we're looking for in this game. But
how about your quarterback after the game? He said that he's been waiting his whole life to play in that stadium, to play in this game. He's got a chip on his shoulder. What do you expect out of him?
Yeah, just like everybody else. I mean, for Will, he grew up in Pennsylvania, so I guess that's a little bit different for him. But for everybody else, I mean, again, just like the Oregon game was, this game's been circled on our schedule. We know what's at stake here. So we're going to have a great week of practice, great energy in practice, and we're going to go into that environment and go, finish the way that, we didn't have an opportunity or we didn't do, 2 weeks ago. And so now we have another opportunity to go do that in this game. So now we got to go finish and win the game in the fourth quarter. We know it's going to take 4 quarters in this game. It always does when you go play in this environment. It's a very difficult environment to play in, but we've been in this situation before. Our guys have been in this situation before. So now it's go time to we'll go win this game and get a top 5 victory, and that's what the guys are focused on right now. The coaching staff, everybody in the building is the focus on winning this game right here.
Austin Ward, podcast.
Ryan, you mentioned the tackles for loss and finishing the game in the fourth quarter on defense. After that 2-week stretch, how different was Saturday for the defense? What was the evaluation overall there?
I thought we played with more precision. I think we got lined up faster. I thought we played with better pad level. I thought we played faster. Just everything about it was crisper to me than it was certainly in the Oregon game.
Now that game has been played, what was the one thing you wanted changed the most?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I'm probably not going to get into it right now. But I mean, there's a lot of things that came into play, and I'm going to kind of leave those questions right now for in the meeting room, or leave those conversations for in the meeting room. But the bottom line is, it's our job to make sure we're putting our guys in the best position to be successful. I know I keep saying that over and over again, but we got to do that as coaches and allow them to play fast, and we got to do that again this week. These guys, throw a lot of stuff at you. You got to be able to handle it, and we want to make sure that when the game comes down to the fourth quarter, our guys are able to go play and win the game in the fourth quarter. We've got to be able to do that on offense and defense in this game. It's a coach's job to make sure that happens.
Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Sticking with the defense, over the last 2 games, there's been a sizable gap between your starting 4 snap count and the guys behind them. Are you comfortable with that, or is that just a matter of those guys need to be on the field, those are your dudes, and they need to play more, or how's that shaking out?
No, I mean, I definitely think we want to rotate guys, but when the game's on a line like that, we got to make sure that we're getting stops. We did that. We'll have to do that again this week. But yeah, I mean, we got to get K-Mac mixed in more, Hero mixed in more, Kenyatta, Caden Curry, and make sure that our guys are fresh in the fourth quarter.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan Jeremiah obviously came in here with high expectations, and he's had a touchdown in every game. As far as him living up to those expectations, what has allowed him to ultimately think do that?
Well, his consistency and the way he practices is very very mature again for a young player. And now you're getting into the second half of the season, and sometimes some of those freshmen can start to fray a little bit. That's not the way he's been. I mean, he's been better every week. The way he's practiced, the way he's handling himself and his preparation on a week-to-week basis, taking care of his body, making sure he knows the game plan, getting himself to ready to go play in these games. And I thought for a young player, he handled the environment a couple weeks ago really well. He's going to walk in another environment here, but he'll be ready. That week of preparation right here leading up to the game is going to be critical. But up to this point, that's been excellent. The way he is on the field, he doesn't want to miss reps. He'll stay after practicing, make sure that he's running the reps with the quarterbacks to make sure the timing is right with Will. So all those things lead to execution on the field.
If I can follow up earlier on Zen, you said if he can go, he would be the starter at left tackle. What was your evaluation of him on Saturday? And what?
Yeah, I mean, if he can go, we'll continue to evaluate kind of where we're at. I don't think we've made a decision on that yet. We'll have to first see if he can go, and then go from there. So, there was definitely plays in the game where he got beat and he was battling in there, but then once he got injured, that obviously changed things. But he did not grade out a champion in the game. It had some tough plays, that caused some negative plays. But we know what we see in practice, and we got to continue to support him and make sure that he knows that we have confidence in him when he goes in a game.
Stefan Kreisnik, Cleveland.com.
You talked in the past about going into the season, you didn't need Will Howard to be a superhero. You kind of just needed him to make the plays that were there available. Well, when the offensive line struggles, do you feel like he has a sense of trying to do too much at times, or do you feel comfortable about how he's kind of responded in situations where maybe the offensive line hasn't been up to par?
No, I don't think he's forcing the action. He had that turnover, which was big in the game, but I feel like for the most part, he's let the game come to him, and we did not do well on third down, and so we got to do that. But that's everybody involved, not just him. But we need him to play well in this game. He's not the only one, but he's got to take care of the football, and like you said, make the routine plays on first, second down, play well on third down, and score touchdowns in the red zone.
Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Yeah, Ryan, is there any status update on Lathan? And then secondly, what was your impression of the way the defense handled his absence with that rotation as well?
Yeah, we're excited to get a full week of practice out of Lathan, so we'll kind of see again how the week goes with him. But good to know that we've built some depth back there for Jordan Hancock to move into another position going into last week's game with just a week of preparation. I thought was excellent. And so, we do have some flexibility there, moving him around. I thought Lorenzo Styles and Jermaine, played well in that game as well, both graded out. So that was good to see because, obviously the depth back there was a little bit of a concern. But then, Jalen McClain, gave us some quality reps back there. So there was quite a few guys getting reps. So, now we'll go into this game now with Lathan, coming back, kind of figure out what that looks like going into it.
Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
With Tegra and Austin at right guard, how has that been? And have you wanted to see more separation from the two than you have, or have you seen that?
Yeah, I think they're both, playing solid football. But yeah, we'd like to see them both take the next step.
And then on our bell, what's the word you got from the Big Ten about that Tarkin call and then taking this?
Yeah, just that, he's able to play in this game, and that they, realized that it should not have been targeting. And, I think a part of that was the fact that, he was ruled a runner. And then if you're ruled a runner, then, it's hard to be defenseless. So, how does that become targeting? And so there was a lot of conversation there. So excited that Arvell's going to be, with the team this week and fired up for him.
Jeremy Birmingham, podcast.
Ryan, most of the offseason and through the summer, there was a ton of talk about how this veteran team, the most veteran team you've had, lots of player-led stuff through the summer. As you've gotten into now November, at least outside looking in, it seems like a lot of the leadership is coming from Will, Caleb, Seth, guys that weren't here in the past. Is that accurate or a fair assessment? And if it isn't, can you give a little insight into which guys that are holdovers are actually leading this team?
Yeah, I think Cody Simon's been excellent. I thought he played one of his better games this past Saturday. I think, you really feel Jack when he's out there. He's strong. I mean, he loves the Buckeyes and just, drives everybody in practice. You feel and hear him a lot. Lathan, not having Lathan there, was, but I thought even on the sideline, Lathan was in it the whole time. So it was good to see him support his team. He's a vocal leader for us there. On offense, like you said, I think Will's really done a good job of that. I think, Mecca as a wide receiver, is a great leader. And I think Seth has really taken on the responsibility of the guys up front. But, when you go 1 for 10 on third down, execution fuels emotion. And, when you're not converting on third downs, it's hard to get your rhythm going. So I think, the guys were a little bit frustrated on Saturday. So we got to do a better job executing and converting.
If I can just spin off of something totally different. As an offensive play caller, when you're looking at your offensive alignment and you see defensive ends and like wide line stuff, how does that change the way you would attack a defense?
Well, yeah, I think every defense has its own, approach to start with. And, sometimes, it's outside, playing defense where you're kind of forcing everything inside, or it's an inside playing defense that's kind of forcing things outside. And just depending on, how that coverage is set up, how the front is set up, it has a different philosophy.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, you said before that if Donovan needs to be the next option to move to left tackle, is that still the plan right now? And how many reps, how often has he gotten reps at left tackle? What would your level of confidence be with him?
Yeah, we've practiced him in the past, knowing that this could be a situation that we may need to go to, and so we'll get him some more this week. And we feel like he's a veteran guy who's played a lot of football, and we'll have to continue to identify the things that, he's going to do well and the things that he's going to, need more and more reps at. But this is a veteran player who's played a lot of football.
Abdul Carter's obviously a really good edge rusher. They've got a bunch of them.
Yeah.
How big a concern is just that matchup, their defensive line against your offensive line?
Yeah, he's excellent. And it's not just him. I think they have a lot of good players on defensive line and on defense in general. So you certainly, got to know where 11 is on the field. He's dynamic as a player. So whether it's run game, pass game, you got to really do a good job with him. And I think, like you said, there's other guys on that line that are really good as well. So it'll be a challenge for our guys, and so we got to have a great week of preparation. And I think our guys are going to be fired up to play in this game. And I think it's a great challenge for our guys up front coming off of last week. So we're in it now, and we got a lot on the line this week, and so here we go. We got to go win this game.
And we'll wrap things up with Tim May, Letterman Row.
Thanks, Jerry. Ryan, just two quickies. Number one, I know you can't talk about it too much, but the concern level of the replay review immediately in the stadium in the command center at the Big Ten not finding what was found later when the explanation was done. Where is that, I don't know, in your concern level from the standpoint of there was a fumble on that play and Ohio State got the football. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it doesn't do any good on Tuesday to get, something fixed. So I guess what kind of concern have you voiced about that you can maybe impart?
Well, as you can imagine, there's been a lot of conversation, and it's gone on for quite a while. But it started, most recently, when Denzel had his situation, and we talked about being a little bit more, not being as technical with it. and then we kind of got into this weekend, and it seems like we kind of fell back into that a little bit. So without getting into the details of all the conversation, it's very difficult to try to coach these players on what exactly to do in that situation. And so, I think what Arvell did in that situation is about what we'd expect someone to do and react in that moment right there. Trying to go win the game with the game on the line, and he keeps it. From what I believe, he keeps his head out of the tackle, and so it's frustrating to think with everything on the line, and you're trying to teach the guys what to do. To be put in that situation is very difficult. Now, I give the league the league credit. I think the easy thing to do would have been just to say no, but they did at least stand up and say no. That should not have been targeting in that moment. Yeah, nobody's more frustrated than me. But I keep going back to the fact that we have to leave no doubt, and I think that the way that we finished that game, even though that was the worst case scenario. Not only do you get the 15 yards, but it's the completion. So you get the ball where the fumble was, and you get the yardage tacked on. So, but. You know what? It was a good challenge for our defense to say, hey, no matter what happens in this game, we didn't get that call. We got to get off the field and go win the game. And we did that. And so to me, that's the biggest lesson here. It's going to be the same thing on Saturday. I don't know what's coming, and I'm not expecting to get a bunch of calls because it doesn't seem to just happen for us. So we got to go win the game and leave no doubt and win convincingly. That's the goal. And so coming out of the game, I think for our defense to build confidence, knowing no matter what happens, we got to get a stop. There's nothing we can do about what the calls are.
And one of the quick, for just an average fan watching that game Saturday, you had two big pass plays, and not until you really needed a touchdown did you get the drive. You know what I mean? And what just came right about that drive, and how frustrated were you and Chip about trying to figure out that, or whatever term you want to use, conundrum, puzzle that Nebraska was causing you, and all of a sudden y'all made it look easy. Just. Well, can you explain to an average fan what kind of happens there?
Yeah, first off, like I said to our team, and I said, what happened the week before with the Nebraska-Indiana game was not going to be the same team that came in here. And they played well, and they have a good team, and Matt does a nice job. And so, it was frustrating. You could see me on the sideline, and, it was extremely frustrating. And so there's a lot of things that we got to, take from this. But what hasn't happened in some of the other games is when you get to the fourth quarter like that, when you're in the games in the balance like that, you got to go win the game. And that's what happened. We need to put a drive together. We did. We need to get stops. We did. I would love to have seen us, when we got the ball back, finish the game in a 4-minute drill. That didn't happen. So I guess the thing that come out of this game and positive is that, when you get to the fourth quarter, we got to execute and win the game. That's it. The statistics, the score, none of that really matters. Go win the game. And that's the way it's going to be here Saturday at State College. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Great recap from this past weekend. I thought our fans were awesome, and it was a fun game for our players. It's a physical game, but I thought our guys went out there and competed and did a great job. But certainly excited about the challenge in front of us now, going to Michigan. Talented team. I think that last I looked, they've got 5 guys that are projected to be drafted in the first round. They've got talent across the board, and certainly. Have the ability to play a really good game. So it's going to be a good challenge for our guys, especially making the trip there to a place that we haven't been before.
Middle left, Eric. You mentioned the 5 projected first round, and 2 of those are on the interior defensive line, kind of right next to each other.
Yeah.
What makes that duo so good, and kind of how can they cause problems for an offense?
Yeah, you watch them. They're game wreckers, right? They're guys that you have to have a game plan for. But 78 and 55 both, they make an impact, consistently in the game. They beat, single blocks. They're certainly good against double teams. They're good against the run and the pass. So they're guys that you have to spend time and effort for. And, anytime you have guys like that up front, it makes it easier to cover in the back end.
Front left, James.
Following with that, what makes Zero Stewart so effective off the edge for them?
Yeah, his power and twitch. He again plays with power, but also has speed and twitch and ability. So it's not just certainly not a finesse rusher. He plays it a certain way, but he's a talented guy.
Back left, Aaron.
Michigan's tight end, I think, leads in yards, targets, touchdowns. Just what have you kind of seen from him on film, and what makes him dangerous and also available for those stats?
Yeah, he's versatile. They use him in a lot of different ways. He's the guy that you have to know where he's on the field at all times. They move him all over the place. He can split out a wide out and be one of the best wide outs in the field, and then line up in the backfield or line up at tight end and be the best at that position. So he's a really talented player that they're going to find ways to use, right? He's an important piece of their offense.
Back right, Brett.
Coach, Michigan's run defense has struggled at least over the last couple of weeks. Do you feel like that's an area of attack you feel like you guys can take advantage over this weekend?
Well, I mean, it's something we're preparing for is the ability to be able to run the ball on a team like this. I think that's important when you play in games like this. They've always been a really physical run game, team. They've always done a good job of running well, and I think our offense and our team is most efficient when we have a good run game going. So that'll be an important piece for us to try to figure out.
Back left, back.
Every team has to deal with injuries, but why do you feel like this one's been able to work through either the Bedford one in fall camp or Birch and Ferguson's absence? Just how have you guys been able to kind of get through those and still improve and get better?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's credit to our players not waiting for their moment to step up, but stepping up and being prepared for their moment. We've had a lot of guys that maybe they weren't going to be the guy that took a ton of the reps at the beginning, and their reps have increased as their production's increased. And you say at the beginning of every season, like, I don't know if people realize what this guy's role might become, but we've had a lot of guys' roles that have grown because of availability, and being available. But also they were ready for those moments when those moments came.
Middle left, Eric.
Is there an explanation for why they didn't review it? Looked like a fumble on Saturday, clear fumble and recovery. Was there an explanation offered?
They had ruled it forward progress.
Right left, James.
Sounds like Will Johnson is going to be closest to a game time decision, possibly out. But what kind of impact does he have on their secondary, having him versus when he's not there?
Yeah, he's a great player. He's a great player. He has ball production. He gets in and out of breaks. He's able to take away, a side of the field. So, he's definitely a guy that would make an impact.
Back right, Brett.
Coach, over the last couple of weeks, we've heard from this team just not care about the polls, not care about being number one. Why do you feel like that mentality is so important to have on the team? And is that something that the guys just kind of started to have from the beginning of the season? Is that something you instilled? Just where did that kind of come from?
No, I just don't think we've ever measured ourselves based on what other people think. And that doesn't necessarily change. And we have our own internal goals that, and our plan of what we want to be. And really, at the beginning of every year, everybody asks me what's success look like. And to me, it looks like us playing our best football at the end of the season. So that's our goal, is to put ourselves in position to play our best football and focus on the process, not the result.
Back left, Matt.
They've had a shuffle at quarterback. Davis Warren, though, looks like to be the guy moving forward, which is what stands out with him. And how has that altered preparations of just multiple guys at that position?
Yeah, and then obviously Orji played again, in the last game as well. So it's different based on who's in the game. They're both capable and they can win in different ways, right? But I think he played well in the last game, and I think getting in a rhythm and finding some consistency is probably important for them. But they both can beat you in different ways. They can throw the ball. Obviously, they do a great job of establishing the run game, and that's something that Ten will bring in a little bit more as he comes in. But he's also proven to have the ability to pass. So you have to prepare for a little bit more when you have to go against a team like this. And we've had some longer weeks at times when we play Friday games. This is not one of those situations. So it's a matter of you making sure that you can be sound and simple for your guys, but also create some complicated looks for the opponent.
Middle left, Eric.
Wondering if you've ever been to Michigan Stadium, and if not,
First time.
What do you know? Yeah, what have you heard about, and what do you know about it?
Heard it's big. Yeah, heard it's big. I know it's one of the, that's one of the things I think that's exciting about being in this conference is getting the opportunity to play at some historic places, and this is certainly a historic place.
Front left, James.
What'll go into managing the guys who are sitting on 4 games and whether or not they redshirt, whether it's Tion or Blake or Rod, because you do have some depth there. Will you bother to travel those guys, or will you try to avoid that?
Yeah, we'll keep that in-house. We always make the best decision for the players on our team and our team.
Back left, Aaron.
What do you feel like you and maybe the team learned about traveling across the country to play Purdue and hoping to take into preparation for this week?
Yeah, just experience more than anything. Just the experience of being able to do that. Traveling for games is not new. It's not like we didn't travel for games last year, but this is certainly a longer distance, and we'll continue to adapt and prepare for it.
Back left, Matt.
Go back to your first year here and Justice Lowe's recruitment of just why you guys offered him late, the involvement there, and how it's played out for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just really proud of, more than anything, Justice. When he first got here, he's dinged up with some injuries, and it kind of limited his ability to be on the field. And we always felt like if he was a guy that was available, he was going to be a guy that can make an impact. And I think, he's probably had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because he realized, hey, I haven't been available, and he's playing tough, right? More than anything, I tell you that Justice Lowe's playing tough football, right? He's become one of our best blockers in that room, but he also runs really precise routes. He's a guy you can line up at any position and trust that he's going to do his job. So again, I think he's stepped up and grown every single year, every single week, and become one of the guys that we all have a lot of faith in when he's out there on the field.
Middle left, Eric.
I wonder if there's a progress report for Terrence and Jordan.
Yeah, I think we have guys that are questionable that are going to be practiced with it this week. Both those guys were available to practice today, but we'll again put our players' best interest in mind as we prepare for this week.
Front left, James.
I don't think you've had to do too much silent counts on the road, maybe a little bit early at Oregon State, but this is 110,000 people. How do you feel like that aspect of things in practice and from snap-wise from Pancho, how that's gone for the last 6 weeks?
Yeah, we always prepare for it. So we prepare for it in games that we're not in games that it'll be necessary. So it's something we carry all the way through fall camp, and you always have a plan based on if it's something that's necessary or not, and assess it when you get there.
Back left, Aaron.
Since year one, you've always done a little Halloween get-together. What was your favorite costume from last night?
Good question. Seeing Coach Stein dressed up in Paw Patrol was pretty good. Trying to think what else was out there. I think the Lapoy boys were both like Mario and Luigi, so those were pretty good looks.
Back left, Matt.
You guys are the only team with 3 top 25 wins this season. How will that help you going into this weekend? I know they're not ranked, but it's still going to be a hostile environment and a good team.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting an opportunity to play the reigning national champions, right? And in this conference, it's hard every single week. So, and we know that we'll get their best. So it's exciting to have a chance. We got to play in some games that are fun for us so far this year and challenging, and this will certainly be a challenge.
Front left, James.
Looked like Shaq was in a walking boot, and Kamari may not have been around this past weekend. Just what's their statuses at the moment?
Yeah, I think they'll both be good.
Last question, James.
From their run game and their two backs, what makes them effective, and how Mullings has been able to convert from linebacker and turn into a lead rusher for them?
Yeah, just more than anything, they don't go down on first contact. They're guys that break tackles. They do a great job of winning at the point of attack. Their offensive line moves people. This is one of the better offensive lines that we've gone against, if not the best. And again, they're always adding extra hats, whether it's another tight end, fullback body types at times. They do a great job of getting extra hats at the point of attack.
Thanks, Phil.
All righty. Happy Monday, and excited to be back at home. I think we're by Saturday it'll be 4 weeks before since we played a home game. So certainly excited to get that for our kids, for our team, for our fans, for our families, really for everybody. It's homecoming, so for our alumni, it's just a special time. As I've said in the past, college football is awesome, and homecoming weekend's one of those things that you just embrace and enjoy. And the fact that we got a 4:30 kickoff against a former Pac-12 foe, and now a Big Ten competitor is pretty awesome. So excited about that. Excited about the idea of getting back on our home stadium, home field, and ready to roll.
Do you remind your players that you have the second longest home win streak in the nation?
No, we haven't talked about that. We talk about how excited we are to play at home. We talked about, I think I mentioned to our team yesterday that in the Big Ten, I think it's a 76% win percentage at home right now of the 18 teams, and that there's a legitimate home field advantage across the country in the Big Ten, and hopefully we'll be able to embrace that.
Speaking of that home field advantage, you guys are unbeaten at home, winless on the road. What did you notice, aside from the obvious of travel and got to do logistical things, that maybe has resulted in not getting some results on the road, and what's the benefits of playing at home?
Yeah, I mean, the benefits of playing at home is routine. Your Thursday and your Friday routine, specifically the 48 hours closest to the game. The benefit at home is an incredible fan base. The benefit at home is an awesome student section. Benefit of home, a lot of our players get to see their parents that sometimes they don't get to see on a road game. And we're at Husky Stadium, which is a phenomenal place to play ball. The road games are tough. Road games are tough for a lot of reasons. We have the road games that we've had thus far. We'll exclude the Apple Cup and that it's in Seattle, but the 3 road games we've had, the Rutgers, Indiana, and Iowa game, those are 3 opponents that we have not played before. It's all new travel logistics, all new schemes, all new personnel that you're going against. It's West Coast, East Coast. I mean, a lot of those things have come into play. Overall, it's good teams, it's older teams, it's veteran teams, it's Big Ten teams. And on the same token, we got to play better in those games. But I think that it was more than just the fact that it was a road game. But I certainly hope that we can play better at home than we have so far. And I hope that the next road trip we go on, we can play better on the road.
You said that you'd made some adjustments for the 9 a.m. kick from Iowa to Indiana. Just curious what you changed ahead of it and what you've learned from now having played 2 of those.
Yeah. What we did was on Wednesday against Iowa, we lifted. We moved the Thursday lift up to Wednesday. And against Indiana, we felt like we kind of overlifted them. We woke them up early, 6 a.m. So we let them sleep in on Wednesday of the Indiana week. We did a little bit different on Friday when we were at the hotel. We gave them a little bit longer of a break rather than a 3-hour break between meetings. We did a 5.5-hour break in between meetings, and we made curfew a little bit earlier, bed check a little bit earlier, and I thought our guys were ready to go against Indiana, and we were a little fresher coming off of bye on top of that, so we had that squared away. But those are just the slight changes.
How do you feel that Sewanee and Kaylee did at left tackle? Looks like they got about 29 snaps each. Just how do you feel that battle's going?
Yeah, I mean, they got to battle it out all week. This week again, we're playing with a lot of guys on the offensive line that have not had snaps in the past. Enoch has had 2 starts in his career prior to coming here. Sewanee none, Kali none, Max McCree none. Hatchett had, I think, 1 or 2, and then it came off an ACL, guard none. And then Drew had 6 the second half of last year at San Diego State. So the whole offensive line is really new, as we knew going into the season. And as, I think as we look at the build and the trying to get the foundation laid of our offensive line, the bigger, strong guys that we have right now will benefit from a huge offseason. I think we have 14 of 16 or 13 of 16 that have eligibility left. That'll all be back. That'll all be bigger, stronger from January 3rd, participate in spring ball, which almost none of them did. I think Sewanee's the only one that participated in spring ball on our offensive line. So the fact that we'll have all of that. But we'll continue, let Kali and Sewanee compete, and we'll see what that looks like. And then when we get closer, we'll probably rotate them through. I don't think any of our offensive line right now, unfortunately, I would say are at 100% health that they could do the whole game. Drew, maybe, but he got a little bit of a foot sprain at the game in the fourth quarter. So I think the best way to protect our guys is to do the best we can to keep them fresh.
Coach, I'm sure your expectations at the beginning of the year, you had them. Where are you right now in terms of what you expected? Are you ahead in some areas, behind in some areas? Maybe give us a little bit of an idea.
Yeah, it's tough. That you really, the most unique part of this year was it was very hard to have expectations because none of these players really played together as a team. It wasn't a team that you were overly familiar with, that we were overly familiar with. We had, 10 out of 11 starters on offense came from different places or never started a game. Jonah Coleman was our I think he only started once for us at Arizona, and he came in here, and Will Rogers was a starter and then not a starter at Mississippi State. And then the offensive line, none of those guys started. And the tight ends, Quentin Moore, never started, but we were counting a lot on him. And then we lost him the second quarter of the Weber game. And the receivers, Denzel and Giles, never started. Jeremiah started at Cal. And then defensively, we had a lot of guys that we didn't know in a system that we've never run in college. And I think that the expectations we'll look at the end of the year and see where we are as a team. But I certainly know that the foundation is being laid on how we want to play the game. The foundation, I love the fact that Jonah had 19 carries for 105 yards. I love the fact that our defense is number one in pass defense in the country. I love the fact that we're not turning the ball over on offense, that we're protecting the football. I think that there's so much more we can gain from experience. There's so much more in offseason will help us. The weight room, I love the fact that we invested a couple $1 million in a brand new weight room, and our guys can attack that come January 3rd. So where we are right now, we'll look back in 4 games from now and really see. But in the end, we just have to get better every week. And I think with our recruiting class, with the transfer portal, with another year in our system, with all the returning guys that we'll have, and the experiences that guys like Kamori House, Adam Muhammad, Jonah Coleman, Evie Prysock, Swanee and Max and Hatchett and all the guys that have Decker to graph. I don't think any of us knew what Decker would do. So all that experience that these guys have had will help them in the future.
How important is it to get the 2 more wins and be bowl eligible?
It's always important because you get 15 more practices. As a coach, that's what you look for. How do you have opportunities to have more practice time with the guys? It's so important because it's an opportunity to celebrate a season. And that, going into this year with all the newness of our team, the fact that we can be together for another month is really special. That's what's important. It's important for seniors to have a chance to showcase their skills one more time. It's important for our fans to be able to go watch another football game. All of that's really important. I try to focus in on beating SC, but I would love nothing more than to celebrate something in December with a bowl game with our families and with our friends and with our team, and we're going to do everything we can to do that.
Considering how difficult kind of the end of your guys' schedule is with 2 top 3 teams, how important is it to get a win this week against the USC to make sure you guys get those extra practices in that time?
Yeah, it's important to win at home. It's important to beat a longtime Pac-12 foe. It's important to stop a 2-game skid. It's important to get better, and we're going to do everything we can to do that. We know we got a great challenge. It's important for them also. And I think you got both teams that are going to play desperate for a win and excited for that opportunity. And they're going to be 2 teams that are going to compete very hard. And we're going to have to see what that looks like this week. But I told our team, don't predict the future. Don't try to figure out what's going to happen in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, in 1 week. Just figure out what's going to happen today, and then let's see how good we can play, and then let's see what Saturday brings.
First pick that got returned for the touchdown on Saturday. It kind of looked like just the whole thing got blown up from the inside. But the second one going to Denzel, what did you see on that?
Yeah, the first one was a total fluke play. That, the center just hit the quarterback's arm and into the blitzer, and the blitzer, it was crazy. The second one was we left it a little bit inside. We were throwing a go ball. We had one-on-one coverage. It was 2nd and 8 on the 8-yard line. We felt like it was a good chance to get a one-on-one and let Denzel work. Quarterback couldn't really step up, kind of had a little A-gap pressure. Just hung it out a little bit too much inside. Denzel tried to make a play on it with one hand. One hand hits the other, gets into the DB. I would love to see him turn and try to attack the ball and let the DB play through you and try to get a PI call, if nothing else. We tell our guys that you got to go from wide receiver to DB to make sure a ball doesn't get picked. And then, obviously, we tell the quarterback It's got to be outside the red line or sideline, and none of those things kind of worked in our favor, and that was an unfortunate play because it ended up resulting in a touchdown for them.
And then not necessarily in the red zone, but still not being able to finish drives, 30, 31-yard line, all that. Was there anything you saw during the bye, and we're hoping to see that you didn't see Saturday?
Yeah, I told the team, I said, we had 7 drives inside the 35-yard line and 17 points. And when you move the ball to that degree that you're inside the 35-yard line 7 times in a game, you should feel good about the outcome. And we didn't. And we talked about different plays that occurred in those times and different, opportunities that we had there offensively that should have led to points, and it didn't. And we turned it over once. We turned it over on downs once on a 4th and 3 scramble. We turned it over. We took a sack once, and we had a 4th and 1 and 3rd and 1 that got stopped in the same series. And then the other 3 series we scored. So need to continue to get better there. And I told our defense, if we punt them back there because we choose not to go for it and we get them on the 2-yard line, now we got to get that 3 and out. That's the time you got to get that 3 and out to get them to punt it back. And instead, I think they got 40 yards and flipped the field on us.
That Durfee has a toe injury that he's trying to deal with. Did he just get stepped on, or is it an AstroTurf type thing? Or
it's a turf toe. He does have turf toe in both toes. So I want to say it was the 3rd week of the season, but I'm not exactly positive that it happened on the left toe. And then I think in the 4th week of the season, it happened on the right toe, or I might be off a week. But so he was fighting the left toe, then the right toe, then the left toe got better, the right toe didn't. Then we had to settle him down the right toe, thought we were in a good spot, and then left toe got aggravated. And then this game, we thought that both toes were okay, and then we had him taped up and suited up, and he went out to work out, and he couldn't explode off of his right foot. So we went back to a foot specialist today to take a look at it, and I don't have an update for you in terms of what Saturday will look like, but it's been a challenge for him, and it's unfortunate because, as we all know, he would certainly be very helpful in setting the edge and his toughness and his strength, and we'll have to evaluate. He's only played 2.5 games this year, so we'll have to see what that looks like in terms of another year if we need it.
Valdez come out of it.
He's okay. He'll be good to go. It was a stinger there at the end of the game. I think it was like the 3rd to last play or something to that effect, but he'll be fine for the Saturday.
Where's Max stand? Max and his thumb.
Today he was going to see a hand specialist. So once we get the results there, the biggest issue for an offensive lineman is that if he's a D lineman, we could club it up. But as an offensive lineman, if you club it up, now he's going to not be able to use his hands at all. So we have to, because he would have to have it in a fist. And so we're right now working through how we can handle bracing it or casting it. But again, I would, unless something surprising comes out, I would guess it's probably another week that they can go without having to do that.
How do you correct some of the issues you guys have faced on 3rd down this season? You guys were 3 of 11 at Indiana.
Yeah. Well, I would say, the 3rd and 1 was a disappointing play that, you've got to be better on 3rd and 1s. I'd start there. If you're better on 3rd and 1s, you get yourself to maybe 4 and 11. Which then gets you a little closer, and then you got to convert one other play, right, to get to a 5. You want to be, let's call it, as close to 50% on 3rd down as you possibly could be. If you're 50% on 3rd down, you're in the top 25 in the country, and we're sitting there probably at like 38%, which is bottom third of the country, and that's where we got to really improve. How do you do that? It's all 11 plus the sideline, I guess I would say. Like, what plays are we calling to put them in the best possible position to succeed? How are we blocking? How are we picking up protections? Are we winning on the down and distance? Are we winning in the route, I should say? And, can we make a couple more plays after we catch the ball, rather than get to a situation where it was a 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8 and we hit Denzel for 5 and now it's 4th and 3. Can we knife it and get the first down or some of those things? We've had a couple of unfortunate ones on 3rd down where, we dropped a snap on a 3rd down that I can remember. We've had a couple of plays that we ended a half a yard short. We had Giles this past game on a 3rd and 6. We got 5, and then on 4th and 1, we went for it and got it. What does that count as, right? It's not a 3rd down conversion, but you're still on the field. But we were only 1 for 3 on 4th down. So I always look at them both. I say, all right, we were 4 for 16 or 5 for 17, whatever we were. We had them both together, and not good enough.
Obviously, you had no choice to go in the portal for a few offensive linemen. You mentioned you could have 14 guys back. I think you got 5 committed in this 25 class. Is that position in particular one that you really need to build through the high school ranks, or is it any different than
Yeah, I think that's it's a really limited group of portal offensive linemen that can come in and start. I mean, the competition for the few people that are who's going in the portal? Non-starters of other teams, or if you have an elite starter that wants to go in the portal and see what it looks like, you'll compete for it with everybody in the country, which we'll have to do. I think that if you're going to build your O-line, you got to build it through high school, and you've got to build it through experience. And now we're sitting there in a spot where Packy Finau and Hilkema and David and Hatchett and Swanee and all these guys are now going to be redshirt freshmen to become redshirt sophomores. We'll have these 5 newcomers coming in that'll be freshmen. We'll have the redshirt sophomores become juniors, and then if we can snag 1 or 2, great. But in the end, you don't really want to live like that. I'd much prefer a Max McCree for 12 months, 12 more months, have an off season with. When you guys are at spring practice, you guys can say, now, you actually have an offensive line out there today and not just 7 players. And we can actually have between 15 and 20 guys competing and getting going. I think that, to me, will be the key. A healthy off season, knock on wood, with all of our young guys to see how much better they can get.
When you lose a couple of games, Coach, fans are always clamoring to make changes, and the easiest one to make, they seem to think, is changing at the quarterback. And they've seen enough of DeMond Williams to be excited and know that he's probably the future. Where is he today compared to where he was at the beginning of the year? And if he needed to, how close is he ready to be stepping in right now?
Yeah, DeMond's improvement has been really good for the last 8 weeks. Each week he's gotten better. Each week he's gotten more comfortable. When he goes in the game, he's more comfortable going in. DeMond's going to be ready to take this team over at some point in time. I think that right now, Wills continues to give us the best chance. He's completed 73% of his passes. I certainly don't blame him for the first interception. That's about as a fluke can get. He's thrown 4 picks all year. Maybe you subtract 1, and we've turned it over a couple times with snaps, but we got to make plays around Will. We got to make bigger plays at the passing game. We got to hit the big ones, and we got to, finish some balls down the field. We had a chance to throw a go route on the far sideline to Denzel. We didn't finish it. He threw a beautiful ball to Lecky at the end of the game to get us in scoring range. So right now, Will's done a really nice job. DeMond is going to be special. DeMond will be the face of Washington football. Moving forward next year. But he's going to continue to get reps throughout this season like he has.
Dan Broussard update?
Back yesterday in the building, back working out. We'll have to see. He's another foot that we have to keep an eye on to see if he can go. Thanks, guys.
Good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate you being here. So to start out, obviously, pleased with Saturday's performance, especially in the second half. Thought the team really hung together and did a good job in all 3 phases. So, we expected it to be a tough game, and it was, predictably. So, just really pleased to get the victory. And, all that being said, we still have plenty to work on, just from consistency in terms of our execution, our operation, just in general. And, I think the other 2 things are probably, being a more detailed outfit. And then, we got to do a better job of turning the page and getting on to the next week. We didn't do too well a couple weeks ago on that. So hopefully we're learning as we go along. And as you enter November, it's going to be critical because, things are going to happen fast right now. It's all Big Ten play, all conference play. And, again, just being consistent in operation, all three phases, and, being prepared. That's what it's going to take to be successful. So, unique time of the year for sure. Regarding Wisconsin, our captains will be the same four guys. You got Jay Higgins, Quinn Schulte. On the defensive side, you got Luke Lachey and Cade McNamara offensively. Injury-wise, share this with you. Cade will not be playing. Okay, he's not going to be able to make it, so he's out. Reese Vanderzee will not make it. Ostranga, Nestor will continue to be out, and we'll see on those guys. Those guys will probably be through the bye, I'm guessing. And then, on the positive side, Fisch was able to come back. He was fine yesterday, a little bit weak, but doing fine practice today. And then Bo Stevens worked today, and I think he's got a chance to play if he can get through the week. So we'll see what that looks like and go from there. And then, going back to Cade, he took a really tough shot there in the second quarter, and he's still feeling that. So unfortunately, he's going to be out. Just feel badly for him because it's been a tough stretch, really for about 2.5 years here. And I've said it before, and you guys have heard me say it a million times, the worst thing about coaching is dealing with injuries. It's something nobody wants to deal with, and certainly he's had his tough share of bad luck here. So feel bad about that, but hopefully we'll get him back soon, get him back on his feet. Going to shift into Brendan, I thought he did a really good job out there, played with boys, was productive, and he's practicing well so far this week, so off to a good start. And we're going to need each and every guy to be doing that because we play a tough opponent, Wisconsin, rivalry game, Heartland Trophy, and it's been a series that's been back and forth. And one thing that's been consistent, they're always good. They're big, they're athletic. Once again, and second year for Coach Fickle and his staff, so they've truly settled in. They look good, and they're playing really good football. Had a very impressive 3-game stretch there prior to Saturday's game, and then play a top 5 opponent and played them right to the basically right to the end there. So tough opponent, and we're going to have to be at our best to have a chance to be competitive. But it should be a good environment. Obviously, a night game in Kinnick, something to get excited about, and we need to be at our best certainly to have a chance in this ball game. Then last but not least, the honorary captain kids captain this week is Hunter Mickelson. And if that name sounds familiar, John played here for us 20-plus years ago. He and his wife, Brooke, are parents of Hunter and 3 other boys, so a family of 4. And Hunter was born with a rare kidney disorder that really affected him when he was a newborn. Initially, they thought he was just colicky, upset baby, but bottom line is what they did, they diagnosed it, and it's called nephrogenic, stick with me on this one, diabetes insipidus, and I guess it afflicts 1 out of every 2.3 million people, so it's a very rare thing. Good thing is they've learned how to manage it. He's doing great. He's a 9-year-old, doing really, really well, so it'll be great to have him with us on Saturday, and I'll throw it out for questions.
Gazette. Hi, Kirk. You were saying really tough shot for Cade McNamara. Does that mean that's a head injury, and are you able to comment at all on kind of the severity of it?
Yeah, well, it's a concussion. Yeah, so he's been ruled out. Hasn't been able to phase back in at all yet. So that's number one. But he's sore in other places too. It hit the turf pretty hard. So, it's just part of playing that position. It's a tough position to play. As far as the severity and all that, my experience, and I'm certainly not qualified medically other than I listen to a lot of things and watch. It seems like each and every one is a different discussion. So, with some luck, hopefully he'll start turning the corner. I think he's going to go to class today and, to give that a try. Hopefully he'll be back here soon. Hopefully next week. We'll see.
Hey, Kirk, 8 o'clock Hawkeye Beacon. I wanted to ask a little bit about Brendan and his journey, getting here in June and now being named your starter. I guess, what stood out to you personality-wise when he was in the portal? And he seems like a quiet guy, but also like beloved by the team and a fiery guy on Saturday. I guess, what are your thoughts on his growth? Personality-wise, also as a football player, getting here in June and now being your starter.
Sure. So we were doing the evaluations. I guess it would have been fairly late spring. And, you watch his tape, and there are some really good things. And I recalled, us getting ready for Northwestern. Ironically, a year ago, they played Maryland the week before. And I find ways to really get over nervous about games, and that was part of that. Maryland, I thought it was a really good game. Both teams were going back and forth in that game. And Brendan did a nice job really moving their team and was in a real good rhythm. Their team was in a rhythm. It was a really good football game. So, I vaguely remember that. Obviously, didn't know we were going to be looking at them in that a different vein, back whenever it would have been April or May. But that game really stood out. He had others where it was okay, but that type of thing, it was kind of up and down a little bit with the team and with his performance. But when we got to meet him, he was very, very impressive. And I think probably the most important thing kind of answers your question, at least from my perspective, when he got here in June. One thing I'm really impressed with is the fact that he got here that late and has been able to learn as quickly as he did. And that's part of the benefit of being an older guy, too, and he's a smart guy. But he just works hard. You go watch the guys in the summer program, and he's leading the group in sprints, those types of things. And basically anything they're doing, he's going full speed and really getting after it and doing a great job. And to your point, not overly boisterous, but just, he's a guy who commands respect through performance. And I think, it seems very apparent that players really like him. They support him. Obviously, same thing with Cade, he's a captain. And so, you got two guys there that are really working at it and doing a good job there. But, yeah, and he got his opportunity, bigger opportunity Saturday and did a really good job with it. But every week's an adventure, just like all of our guys, just like all of us. But, yeah, I'm confident he'll do a great job.
Adam Jacoby, Hawkeye Beacon. Looked like a bounce-back day for the secondary against Northwestern, especially after their Michigan State performance. What was it like to have DeShaun Lee back in the starting lineup and really see the unit be as productive as they usually are?
Yeah, I said after that game, the bad game, that, hopefully it was uncharacteristic, but, let's talk. You got to go out and prove it. And based on this past Saturday, maybe we'll be able to look back and say it is uncharacteristic. But, yeah, we looked a lot better. We just looked like a team that had maybe practiced and was doing things a lot more fundamentally sound. Yeah, we're going to have a hard time against anybody if we don't tackle well. And I'm not discrediting what Michigan State did. They played really well. But it's our job to try to match tempo. And, if this guy's got a ball, you got to tackle him somehow. So, yeah, I'm encouraged, certainly, and it was good. It felt more like us out there on the field. Our tempo was better. Thought everybody was, where they should have been. And, didn't see a lot of guys reaching or on the ground, those kinds of things, which are really a bad sign defensively.
David Eichel, HawkeyeInsider.com. Kirk, kind of a two-part question, but it seems like no matter what happens, Wisconsin always finds a way to run the football and just find really, really outstanding running backs. What have you kind of seen from, Tawee Walker this year? And then as far as the rivalry goes, what separates Iowa and Wisconsin from maybe some other Big Ten rivalries? Because it does seem like it's one of the more physical Big Ten games any season.
Yeah, it's interesting. I go way back. When I got here, I remember we knocked them out of the Rose Bowl, actually, in '81. I remember that. It was a tough game. I can't tell you who the quarterback was. The other thing I remember from that game, they had run a bounce pass, where the quarterback throws it off the turf to a receiver, catches it behind the line, and chucks it down there. We must have practiced it 30 times, and they hit it for a touchdown against us. So, practice doesn't always make perfect. I'll never forget that. And it's a hard play to defend. It's just, everybody wants to come forward for obvious reasons. But, and then it was interesting, when that thing tailed off there at the late 80s. Before I left here, their program had really gone to a place that, I don't think anybody would have envisioned. And then, Barry was hired same year. I guess, well, not same year. What year was he here? That would have been, 90 when he got there, right? Yeah, would have been 90. So, and up they went, and since I got back here in 99, they've been nothing but strong and just very, very impressive in all regards. But, they're a lot alike. They have more population, I guess, but a lot of in-state players on both teams. And, I think Barry and I had some similarities philosophically about what it should look like, that type of deal. He certainly did it to a really high level, Rose Bowl victories. And when we got here in 99, they were the ones we were looking at. And the only good thing about us going up there in '99 and getting beaten, for them to clinch the Rose Bowl, gave us an exposure, all the people in our organization, myself included. Hey, this is what it looks like. This is where you got to try to get. And so it kind of set the bar for us. But, they've been a good football team as long as I can remember. And it's always a tough contest. It's typically going to be a physical contest, good defenses, and hopefully both teams, are trying to run the ball a little bit and that type of thing. And they're doing a really nice job. Yep, Jack.
It looked like Kirk took that shot on the 3rd and 10. That was a roughing the passer. Why did you feel he was able to go back out onto the field? And at what point did you decide we need to pull him because of the possible head injury?
I mean, yeah, he wasn't feeling great, but it wasn't like he was incoherent by any stretch. But we had, as I said Saturday, we had already planned a rotation going into the game. And it just so happens that was the time, coincidentally, if you will. And we were going to do that regardless, unless it was the ball was like on the 1-inch line. We had 99 plus to go. Not fair to throw a guy in there cold doing that. But, it wasn't like any symptoms really presented himself other than he was, sore and shook up, certainly. But then, at halftime they diagnosed it and, held him out. Not I'm not sure when they diagnosed the concussion, actually. But, he just wasn't fit to play at halftime.
With Bo potentially coming back, do you see a rotation there to continue at that position with either Ellsbury or Cade Pieper?
Yeah, it's possible. We really haven't talked about it, and we'll have to get through the week to make sure Bo is going to be back, and then we'll worry about that. That's easy. But today, all three of them were playing at that position, both first, second team. So we had, however many snaps, 10 or 12, to divide up with three guys. And we'll try to just ease him back. I don't think he's ready to play a full game, conditioning-wise. But he's a really good football player and playing very well. So it'd be nice to get him back into the mix, that's for sure.
Jedd Leistikow, Des Moines Register. Obviously, backup quarterback, again in the spotlight. Is Marco Linus available this week? And if would it be him or Jackson Stratton? I guess at this point, is that kind of where the pecking order is right now?
Yeah, that's really who's left. And we'll tell you who number 4 is right now. And I hope you never find out. With all due respect, but it's a guy who played high school quarterback. But we're basically out of guys. James Reesar has moved to receiver, and unfortunately he sustained an injury last week. So it's a little bit ironic that all of a sudden it's a thin pool. But we'll go with the guys we got and find a way.
Mitch Fick, KGAN. You preach November football and playing your best in that month. You're 18-2 the last 5 years in November, and that's handling injuries and the ebbs and flows of a season. What have you learned about your teams any month in November, but particularly these last 5 where, every obstacle seemed to be in the way one year or another, and 18 out of 20 is pretty good?
Yeah, we've had some interesting, circumstances, certainly in November last half decade. But that's football too, and it's interesting if you look at our conference right now, 5-3 and 3-5. There's, almost everybody is in that bunch outside of maybe 3-4 teams. I don't know. You can look it up exactly, but so it's really it's a little bit like the NFL. In the NFL, it used to be December, and maybe it's December, January now, the extra game. But it's really where things kind of get decided and get separated. And again, I go back to the consistency, the details. The better a team understands that, the better off you're going to be in this type of year. It's going to be a lot of close games, it'd be my guess. And, so you just never know what little thing is going to lead to a win. It might be something you did on Tuesday in practice or, corrected, that type of thing during the course of the week. So, we've been fortunate. We've had guys that have understood that and really, paid attention and tried to do a good job that way to put ourselves in position at least to, come out on top. But all that being said, it's tough, and it's fun in a way, but it's exhausting in a way too, and that's I guess that's how it's supposed to be.
Blake Hornstein, Hawkeye headquarters. Kirk, special teams with kicker and punter, it is a unique position where guys as freshmen are asked to come in and start and play a big role immediately. With Reese, he seemed to get into a pretty good rhythm on Saturday with a couple of punts inside the 10. I mean, is there a quality about him you think that stands out to you in terms of just his ability to work through inconsistencies in his first year and now find a groove here in November?
Yeah, he's really been impressive, and I'll throw in Saturday. That was huge, his role, and then Certainly Weege, just did an unbelievable job, and congratulations to him too, being recognized by the Big Ten. So deserved. I mean, he's trying to do things every time he gets his hands on the ball. Reese, it's kind of funny. I was thinking about that in the shower this morning. I don't know why. I think of weird things in the shower all the time, but I was thinking about what he was doing and some other options we might have had as a punter. And you never know, you just never know. And then now you're talking about Australia, which has been good to us, but it doesn't mean every guy that punts that grew up in Australia is going to be, pay off. I think the thing I've been most impressed with him is just his maturity and his ability to really practice well, which for young guys it's not usually that easy, but he's really serious out there on the field. He works at it. He's not happy when he hits a bad one. He'll occasionally do that. He hit a couple this morning. But it upsets him a little bit. But he gets on to the next one. He doesn't dwell on it and, act like a baby. And so I think his focus and his ability to prepare for a young guy it's been impressive. And I don't think I've ever been around where a guy put 4 6-yard liner in. I'm not sure some of those got spotted correctly. A couple might have been 5 or 4, but nonetheless, you get the idea. I mean, that's 4 really good punts, and that's just a huge swing in the game in terms of field position. And so, it's exciting to think that he can get better, and I think he will.
Tyler,
they got a good punter too, by the way. Yeah, left footer, Australian.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. The play that Brendan passed it and then ended up being one of the lead blockers. Just what was your kind of reaction to seeing that?
It wasn't an official race, but you could probably say he's faster than Scoos. I guess that was the takeaway. But it says something about his personality too, him wanting to get down there and help the play. He could have stood there and been a spectator, but he threw the ball and then he started basically trucking down the field, and that to me was being a good teammate. His block was okay. I mean, his guy came off, but nonetheless, just had effort. But that's kind of who he is. He works hard, and that's kind of what I was referring to back in the summer program when you'd watch those guys compete during conditioning stuff. He goes hard. He goes one speed. He acts like a football player. A total football player, not a specialist.
Kirk, Jeff Dubroff, KCCI Des Moines. Tyler took my question. I'd like to know, just as an offensive line guy, any critiques on the block from Brendan? Anything that you think you look at and you tell him maybe work on this next time?
On the what?
We're going to do it. On the block from Brendan when he was running downfield. Any critiques, I guess, as an offensive line guy yourself?
On one hand, I was really happy to see him go down there. On the other hand, I'm okay if, you don't get too close to the fray. We certainly don't want him leading with his head. That's for, first of all, is, getting out there. Not to excuse quarterbacks, but I'd rather them not be too physical anytime they do anything. If they want to hip check a guy or something like that, great. But, it's kind of like the guy in the NFL that's just coming back right now. He had a first down made, and he led with his head going for more yardage, and I'm not sure I understood that move. It's not always the smartest. I guess that's wisdom and age.
John Steppe is that again. First of all, with Reesar's move to wide receiver, kind of what prompted that? And then speaking of wide receivers and your punt returner with Caden Weechin, what's kind of stood out to you over these last few years with them ever since you got him from Iowa Western?
I'll start with that. I mean, he just, he's got a good energy too. Just, that's never been an issue with him. Consistency has been an issue, and not in a bad way, but, he's like, he goes and he sometimes is a ready, fire, aim guy. But and I don't mind telling you, going into the season, I was a little worried about him, judgment fielding balls. I'll say that. I'll admit it now. But he's certainly earned my trust. He's just doing a really good job back there. And I'll say this too, people don't realize how hard a job that is. I think it's one of the hardest jobs on the football field, maybe outside of playing quarterback is obviously really tough and challenging. But making good judgments back there and keeping a ball from hitting the ground, all those kinds of things, just start there. If you just field balls clean, you're ahead of the game typically in the punt return game. And then he's doing that. Plus he's, like I said, he's trying to get somewhere every time he's got the ball. He wants to score. And, his teammates did a really nice job too. But to have a good returner who's got an aggressive attitude like that, that's a big part of being successful. So I can't say enough about what he's playing right now, and I think he's having a lot of fun doing it too, which is neat to see. And then with James, it just we just kind of looked at things and felt like that might be his best avenue of the field. He's a good athlete, good sized guy, and was doing a good job, unfortunately, until he got injured. And it's another knee injury where there was no contact at all, which just seems to be a trend. It's kind of weird, but anyway, we'll deal with it.
Jedd Leistikow again with Cade out. Backup quarterback situation, maybe not where you want it at this point. And you just said Brendan's full speed type of guy. So do you have to give him any, or do you feel like you need to give him any caution lessons this week, or do you just let him play and let him play like he normally does?
Yeah, I'd be fine if he slides. If he's going to run the ball, slide, and I'm fine with that. Like if we had 10 quarterbacks, I'd still ask him to do that. There's a difference between running backs, fullbacks, and quarterbacks in my mind when they run the football. And sometimes you just got to do what you got to do too. I mean, it's situational, but just ask him to be smart. But you don't want to harness a guy back or throttle him down too much. But yeah, hopefully he's old enough now to have good judgment. When to do what you got to do, and but you can't play scared either. You got to go out and play the way you play. And we're not going to be reckless with our play calling. I can put it that way. Have him carry the ball 40 times. That's not part of the plan. Yep.
Two more.
Hey, Kirk, Ellie Clough, Hawkeye Beacon. I don't think anybody's asked quite about this, but I was just curious as to what your conversations have been like with Brendan after coming in and stepping up and leading you guys to that victory. I guess, what have those conversations been like? I think I had heard that Tim Lester just walked up to him and said, "Man, I'm so proud of you." And I guess I'm just curious as to what your conversations with him have been like.
Yeah, conversations are personal, but just in general, he played well, and we expected him to play well. So we're happy for everybody. Happy for our entire team. That's a good thing about after a win, because it's hard after a loss. You really worry about where everybody is, mentally and emotionally. And this is an emotional thing. We experience what we do, so worry about that. But he, on the practice field, he's the same guy. He has been at least since he's been here every day. Doesn't seem to go too high or too low, but he likes to practice. He likes to play. And obviously, I was really happy for him. And I can't remember what I said to him specifically on Saturday, but it was certainly positive and just, it's a good moment because, he had a lot to be proud of, just like the whole team did, but he certainly did. Anytime a guy comes off the bench, the next man in deal, that's a really good thing. And that's what it takes to be successful as a football team. So, just happy to see his work pay off for him.
Owen Seaborn with KGAN. I wanted to ask a little more about Cade. I hadn't seen the captain's release for this week. I didn't know if Cade was still going to be a captain or if that was.
He's one of our four, as I mentioned. Yeah, he would.
I just wondered about him and Brendan's relationship. I know it sounds like he's been kind of held out with his concussion. What his advice has been to Brendan, or what some of those conversations have been like. It sounds like those two are close, and what some of the things you've maybe heard him impart to Brendan this week.
Yeah, I'm not privy to any of them, but I know all three of those guys they have a good time together, and they relate very well. And they go back and forth all the time. So, like I said, Cade couldn't, he tried to sit through meetings yesterday and just couldn't make it, wasn't able to focus and all that stuff, which is not uncommon. And, but no, they all care about each other. They pull for each other. And it's been that way all season long, even when we were, started rotating Brendan in. All three of them they've got a really good vibe. And that's what you hope for. You hope you have that kind of thing. It was funny, I was driving in this morning. They're talking about Russell Wilson and Fields, and the chemistry they have. And I guess on TV last night, they were showing those guys on the sideline talking and conversing. And it was Bill Polian and Solomon Wilcott's just talking about what a good relationship. And, that's what good teams have. You hope. Everybody wants to compete and everybody wants to win the job. That's what you want every player to want. But also, only one person's going to win it typically. Some positions you rotate, but you hope in each and every group, and then groups across the way are good with each other. And I think it's trademark of a good team. Not that you love everybody. That's not realistic. But everybody's got to respect and they get along. And in the quarterback room, that's a really healthy thing. And they compete against each other all the time, but they're all together, which is great. It's fun. Okay, thank you.
Excited for the week. Coming off a bye, we was able to get healthier. Players had a good week, practiced with a lot of enthusiasm. And, be able to beat this team, we're going to have to play with a lot of discipline. And this is a pretty good opponent. They're coming off a good game against Ohio State. They didn't pull out the victory, but they still played well. They got a freshman quarterback, running back that runs hard, a couple fast guys on the outside. Defense interiorly, they have two D tackles that are really good. one safety that's really good also. So, it's a pretty good team that we're playing against. So, so we're going to have to be on our A game and just kind of looking forward to it. I think we've figured out our travel pretty much. Did a good job with LSU, Penn State, then Rutgers. So, this won't be as long of a trip, but I think that we got that part down. We open up to y'all.
You mentioned getting healthy. Anybody return to practice or on the verge of returning?
I think Rico's on the verge, so excited about that. A couple other guys, not so much. There might be a little bit of just a holdback or something that's going on, but I'm excited to see if Rico be back out there.
Did you get what you wanted out of the bye week?
I would say yeah. I just wanted them to practice hard, and it's just a week that we can gain ground without having to play. So I think that they did that. So yeah.
Now that we're pretty deep into the season, just what are some things that you've learned about yourself or maybe how to coach throughout this season?
I'm taking the same thing as like the running back coach, it's just on a bigger scale. So that's where the discipline, respect, and enthusiasm come from. But right now I would like us to have a little bit more discipline. We've had a few penalties and stuff that's not necessarily what I want. So I think that's an area that we can improve on.
Does Nebraska's defense do something a little different schematically that makes it a little bit tougher of a matchup, or something that you have to look at a little bit closer?
Just something that you have to look at. I don't think it's not the first time. Hawaii they didn't run exactly that, but it was certain situations it was 3-3 stack. So, but no, they're a good defense. They fly around. It's more of how they play, really. These guys are real blue collar, and they're going to do their job. So you got to get out there and not beat yourself and stay ahead of the sticks, and hopefully we can do that.
It feels like a lot of this team's better moments come on the road this year. What do you maybe attribute that to?
Not sure. I'm not sure. I think it was just maybe they're a little bit more locked in situations of just being in a away stadium. So maybe that, but this isn't a away game, so I'm fired up for that though.
How well do you know Matt Rule and Tony White?
Don't know them at all.
Did you overlap with them here?
Nope, not at all. Yeah, I played with Tony. Yeah, I played with Tony for 3 years, and Matt Rule was our GA, I think, for 2. So yeah, I know them pretty well. It was fun to see Coach Rule at the Big Ten Media, and he coached for the Panthers too, so that was exciting. And then Tony was a linebacker here, so we had a few battles, both sides of the ball.
What are Caden Medrano's best qualities?
Just how he approaches the game. He's a guy that comes out here and practices every day, practices hard, makes a lot of plays on Saturday, just a leader. That's how he earned his captain sticker. So, he's just a guy that, we probably wouldn't be where we were at if we didn't have him on the field.
You said you had the away game kind of down now. What'd you have to get down? What was the learning experience for that?
It's just mostly the travel. So it's not just how to go about that, and playing in iconic stadiums and stuff like that. So
you said at the beginning of the season that you were potentially a little worried about how they do in those big stadiums. How do you think they've done so far?
I think they've done pretty well. It hasn't been. They've shown up in the first half, so I don't think that the stadium has really played an effect to it. It's just mostly some of our second halves haven't been exactly where we wanted them to be.
You were on staff last time this team went to Nebraska, and it was kind of a heartwarming gestures they made with the sticker on the helmet and the balloons for Nick. What did that mean to you and the team to see kind of an opposing fan base rally around UCLA like that?
Just to kind of see what type of fans that they are. It was an unfortunate situation for us, and still playing that game and then showing up to Nebraska and seeing how their fans embraced us. It was just amazing. I'm sure the Pasquale family liked what they saw, and it was just good to see a fan base, take pride in trying to comfort the other team that came in. So, I appreciate it at that time.
What kind of improvement have you seen from the offensive line, let's say, in run blocking? Like in this last bye week, too. What have you seen in practice?
Yeah, it's getting better. You know, it's more of the continuity. So this will be the 4th game that we've had the same line. So I'm just excited for that. You know, we're kind of, moving guys around and just trying to find a lineup that worked for us, and I think we have. So last week was a good week of guys just doing their job. Just own your position and do what you need to do, and I think that'll help the whole offense.
You mentioned their freshman quarterback. How have you seen him evolve from the game film you've seen from the beginning of the season to now?
He's just you could tell he's getting more comfortable. He has a big arm, so he's going to try to make plays. But, I'm excited for our DBs and our front and our linebacker and everybody. So, he's playing good ball. And I was with Pat Mahomes in 16 at Texas Tech. So, it's crazy when you see it because he really does emulate Pat.
Why do you tape your fingers for games? Like your fingers and hands?
So I used to do that as a running back coach, and then I've only done it one game this year. So